Hi everyone, welcome to my Shoreline studio. I'm Sybil Muschik and behind the camera is Joshua Blanc. Today we're talking about a compositional device known as overlapping. Now we have our subjects here. We just recently took photos of a bunch of mushrooms. It's that time of the year again. And these are Amanita muscaria and they are poisonous, but they're wonderful to photograph. Now, here's a mushroom on its own, not a bad composition. Because it's large, you can use it as a central image. But have a look at this one and see how much more powerful it is because the mushrooms are overlapping each other. And that's what we're going to be after today. We're going to be working with this one. This will help your compositions gain more power, more impact. I have already done a couple of pieces. We'll probably be doing a collage. And here's some of the colors I've picked out in the mushrooms. Here's the top. And I'll show you how to do this. And here's the stem. So basically just aspects of the mushroom that we'll cut. And we'll do a drawing of this and a stencil, and then we'll put it all together and hopefully it will turn out. I've been very busy lately with shows. I've had 3 shows in the space of 3 weeks. So I'm kind of worn out and, you know, this might all go sideways, but we'll just give it the best shot we have. Starting with our gel plate, our 8x10 gel plate. I've collected some leaves, but we're just going to start with that orangey background. So we have our Amsterdam acrylic paints, and we have our rollers, just speedball rollers, sprayers. I've got a bunch of, these are the Conte pastels. We're going to be maybe enhancing shadows and things like that with Conte on the work. And if we need to, I have my brushes handy, and we might do touch-ups, some enhancements. It's all going to come together seamlessly, right?
We hope.
We hope. Anyway, and I also have some mediums that we might need to use. My golden matte medium, some open thinner, and some retarder so that our paint doesn't dry too quickly if we're doing some painting on the compositions. Okay, starting off with our little bit of orange. A very little bit, obviously. And lovely rude noises. And a little bit of, this is Azolo Light. Okay, good enough. This will give the mushroom a bit of a glow. We don't need a lot of paint. Okay. And just a touch of burnt sienna. I don't want to overpower it with burnt sienna, but we need to just tone down the garishness of it. All right. So then we're just rolling it out. Whoops. Get that out of the way. And it's okay if this base layer is mottled, because the mushrooms, you know, have quite a variety of tones to them, and that's a really good thing for your composition anyway. So we're just going to print this. So this is the easy part. You're just doing base layers. Using my Varan. getting some good coverage. And there's some variation in the tone, so that looks pretty good. And some little marks and things, just like the mushroom has. Josh will put up the image of it on the monitor, and then you can see the comparison. Okay, so the next step, you're going to have to clean your plate because we want the white to just be sparkling. So just a bit of water here. And just get a paper towel. In the meantime, your print is drying, so it should be nice and dry for you to print this next part. So just put a bit of white down. This is just more Amsterdam paint, but a bigger container. You don't need a lot. And we're just going to do little tiny dabs on the gel plate. If you look at the photograph, you can see they're just spots. And because we have a colored paper already, they will take on a little bit of that color. It's not going to be totally pristinely white. And when you print this, they will blob a little bit, so don't put too much paint on. So vary your sizes, like some of the spots are small, some are bigger. Do it very randomly. Put a big one there, maybe a little one there. Just keep working with your spots. Some will be thick and some will be thin. Some will sort of run together. Just really vary them a lot. That should be pretty good. All right, so back to our first piece. Now I have a plexi plate underneath my gel plate that's just about 1/4 of an inch all around bigger, and that seems to agree well with the size of the paper, so it gives you a nice border. Okay, and then there you have it. So we probably won't be using this one because it has to dry, but that's how you do it. And then the background one, again, remove this layer. Oh yeah, I've just sort of squashed down the white. We're going to be using a bunch of different colors. I'm going to start with the burnt sienna. And a touch of black because we want to put a few shadow areas in there. Not much because you don't want to overpower the composition. Okay, we're going to add some yellow, bright yellow. I can't read the... I think I've covered, I've covered up the with paint, but I think it's like a cad yellow medium. Let's add a little bit of blue to it. And our light yellow. It's just a touch lighter. And then we're just going to roll it out. This will give you sort of that forest under cover. Let it be modeled like this. It will give the impression of leaves and twigs and other little things. Now at this point you can add a few leaves to it, so you'll also be overlapping with this. You know, your mushrooms are going to go over these leaves. These are just leaves, poplar and birch that I've just picked off my front lawn. Maybe a maple or so in there. And we'll take a new sheet, let that push down. We'll get the impression of the leaves. And what I'm going to do is we will register this so that we can flip it back. Push that down good so that it will register. So we're going to really burnish this down so that we get a good impression of the leaves. Which will show up white. Now we take them all off and you will get some of the detail of the leaves, but you don't want a lot of detail. And then just lightly put the paper back over. And you'll get just a small aspect of just a hair touch. Okay, a little bit more up here. And there. This paint was quite thick, so you have a lot of texture, which will be nice. Okay, I'm just picking up some of this yellow blob here. Okay, that's good. So that's going to be our background. That'll all be cut up. Okay, so that's our forest floor. Again, clean your plate. Doesn't have to be cleaned very spotlessly, but to some degree. Then we'll put some magenta on for the magenta aspects of the mushroom and some of the shadows, which will be sort of a purpley magenta. And I'm just going to put a little bit of violet. And a touch. We're going to coordinate the colors by using each one in various aspects of the same composition. Ties everything together. And maybe a touch of black. It's just used to darken the color. You're not really mixing it that much. So you just want sort of a nice shadow tone. And not too dark. So we're just printing the forest floor here. I'm using heavy-duty cardstock, which means we'll probably have to do something with the edges for our collage pieces. If you use, you know, a Japanese paper or deli paper, then you probably don't have to worry about that. But I want this to have a bit of dimensionality. Okay, let's make sure we get our edges here. Not that it matters, we're going to be cutting it up, right? So, all right. Just a little bit of a spot there. So those are our forest floor and shadow colors. All right. So now put it aside or clean your plate, whatever you want to do, because now this comes the drawing part. Now there's two ways to approach that, and one is you can just place it under the plate and you can use your light table or put it against a window and trace it off, right off the photograph. You could also paint it on the gel plate, but you'd have to cut it out, right? So it's wise to have nice sharp edges on the gel plate. The gel plate itself distorts some aspect of your details. So we're going to set that aside and keep these out of harm's way. I'll just bring over my matte cutting board. And I'm just going to try and draw it. Now I want to show you something. Yupo paper, Yupo or Yupo. And this is the translucent kind. And it's good for making stencils, really good. So you can draw directly on it or trace it off. I'm going to be drawing directly on it, and I'll just correct whatever I have. I'll draw it lightly. We'll just use a charcoal. So this will, Josh will put some music on. This will take a little while. I have to draw all my mushrooms and then we'll cut them out. So we'll do it quick time, but I will take my time, of course. All right, starting with the large mushroom. And we have to figure out how much space, so I'm going to just mark off a few things here. Okay, I'm not putting the leaves in. This is only for the stencil and masks. And I think I've got the shapes pretty good. We would just round them off here. And we don't need the inner details at this point. We'll be enhancing with pastel, as I said. Okay, so we have a good amount of space around, so when we're cutting this, it shouldn't be a problem. I'm just using my X-Acto knife. And you know, you can do corrections with the pastel, not a problem. I'm just gonna put, I don't want to smear everything, so work with my hand over. And then we're just gonna cut it out. I have other knives in this with tiny blades, and I've still found that this is good old X-Acto knife just seems to work the best. It's a nice sharp blade, easy to handle. And I just keep turning the page until I've got everything cut out. You'll have a few negative shapes, which is good. But no undercuts. Undercuts are a problem. That's when you take a piece out and then you have to fit that piece in, and we don't want to do that. We have nice big shapes, so it shouldn't be a problem with, you know, having fragile pieces to worry about that may break or tear or crack. Yupo paper is really good. It's a plastic paper, but you do have to handle it with some care. Okay, just make sure you take lots of care releasing this. Because it will tear. We just did a little tear there, which is not good. Okay. Yeah, stencil cutting is kind of fun. You can do designs, I guess, and some people, you know, get them manufactured, and you know, you can buy lots of stencils. I like to make my own. I haven't manufactured any as yet, but I'm thinking about it. And voila, we have our little stencil. Okay, so here's our mask, and this is the shape. Okay, so we're going to use the mask, and I'm probably going to just outline it so I can cut this out of the background, and then from there we place it on there, and hopefully it all comes together. So just a quick outline. And I've just altered the composition slightly, placing the mushrooms a little lower down so that they go off the bottom of the page. Okay, I can see that not too badly, and I might have to replace that. Anyway, so this is a tricky way to do a collage. Now we're back to cutting. It's a little difficult to see it with it. It's so dark. So I'm just finishing cutting out the mushrooms, and just this base here. Aha, all right. Okay, so we have our background and we have our mushroom. Okay, so the last part, now I will just tape it, but this is kind of an interesting shape. I could put that on another, for example, on here. Use it like a night mushroom. Well, this is so much fun, honestly. Okay. Or, of course, here's another. This is my first, but it's not nearly as interesting, is it? So I really like the fact that we did the leaves and things first. Okay, so now we have our mushroom, and pretty well from here on in, all we have to do is draw the lines and make the mushroom speak to us, right? So, and that's what the pastels are for. So let's take a few moments to do that. I'm going to tape. And of course, you at home will be, you know, gluing this all together before, you know, you do that final step. Okay, so first of all, let's do this part of this mushroom. We would just use a when you've got that upper. Now we've got spots everywhere, so we might have to tone this totally, and then this mushroom goes. Goes underneath here. So let's tone this with a lighter color. And of course, you know, we have all these things. If you want, you can. I'm just doing it the fast and dirty way because of the video, but ordinarily I would probably cut that part out and then glue it in place and so forth, but this will work. And working in pastel is nice too. Now you can use whatever, these are just pastel pencils. And then you can, I would probably use maybe, let's get some white on there too. And then you can put the lines in. So this mushroom does not look like a sponge underneath. It has all these lines. There's probably a proper term for it.
Gills.
The gills? Right. Okay. And as you're coming to the center, they change in aspect so that they look slanted as they're further away from you, and as they're coming close to you, then they're almost straight up and down. And as it goes away, again, there's a slant. And they're not perfect, you know, there's little gaps where bugs have gone and breaks, so don't make them too perfect. Okay, and then we're going to do a little bit of a shadow on here. Just starting with the... There's still a lot of light going underneath there, so your shadow should not be too dark. Just want a bit of contrast so that you can see the stem. And you still want to see the little white spots to some degree. So you can just rub it with your finger. And under here too. And there are variations in tone, like example in here. Even here. I might try some deeper violet. And we'll probably go right down to the black in there. So we're just finishing up here with a few details, darkening the shadows a bit, but keeping them transparent. Pastel works good for this kind of thing. I'm just using my finger because it's fast. Bit of shadow under here. Now once you have this all glued down, it'll look fantastic. Okay. And we have some interesting leaves. They're almost too much of a muchness, though. I probably suggest you know, toning them down a little bit, otherwise they're going to compete with the mushrooms, right? So you might want to just take a bluish tone to them or something. Shadows are transparent, so we'll put our lines back in. Now there's a really dark spot in here at the bottom of this. And if you're careful, it will blend into the nice purple shadow that you have. And then you can give some details to the top. You know, you can make some marks. There's some shadows in here, like branches reflecting off overhanging things. I'm just putting a little, you know, you can go to all sorts of lengths to make this work for you. We were going to obscure those leaves a tiny bit. Just a dull gray will push it back. Especially against here. And some of those leaves might be catching the light too, so you know you don't have to get rid of them entirely, but just push them back a bit. We want our overlapping mushrooms to be, you know, the focal point. And you can play around with this for quite a long time. And really that's what art making is all about, isn't it? Is being playful, being engrossed in your subject. You know, trying out some new materials. We did introduce Yupo paper, which isn't a paper at all, it's just plastic. And we've learned about overlapping and pushing things back. So lots of skills learned. And I'll probably carry on with this for some more details and glue this down, and then we'll show it at the end. And there you have it. Our overlapping shapes, and a nice way to do a composition. Gives it a lot of strength and character. So be sure and try it. So we'll see you again in another video. Lots coming up. I have been busy, you know, with these shows for Art Trail and hanging. I was asked to hang actually 3 venues for Art Trail, so I'm worn out. But anyway, it's all good, and we'll catch you another time. Don't forget to take care of yourself and your families, and be kind to one another. Bye for now.